Hello, wider listeners. It is once again that time of the week. What time of the week is it? Well, it's that time of the week where we dig underneath the headlines. We take out our, lefty binoculars, or microscope, I should say. Stick that mainstream media capitalist propaganda under it and look for germs or viruses, if you would. Haha, how topical. But yes, we dig underneath the headlines and we talk to you about issues at the international, national, statewide, and local level and cover it from that dirtbag left angle. It is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program. Now, as always, the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 FM, WIDR Kalamazoo, or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may, in fact, turn out to be. So last week, we were talking about Super Tuesday, and we'd kind of described it as the Empire Strikes Back moment. You know, it's like, oh dear, this does not go necessarily as planned. They found the secret base, or I guess you could say it was Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar found the secret base on Hoth and sent a bunch of walkers, and I guess, I don't know if it's Joe Biden or just the DNC and billionaires. I guess the emperor, and then Joe Biden would be a very inept, gropey Darth Vader. Yes. Last night it was kind of hard for a lot of all y'all on the left. I will say it was a very inspiring weekend, though. A lot of us on the program, a lot of my listening audience kind of skews from, maybe like left liberal all the way to all y'all lovely anarchists and communists out there. And what was very interesting was to see just a wide spectrum of all those people. Like, down at the volunteer office, all that stuff. It really says something to me where you have communists, anarchists, liberals, and even some conservatives all in the same building trying to pitch for the same candidate. We'll be doing a little bit of election analysis later. I will say for Kalamazoo's part, you did New Deal Grandpa good. So you can at least, have that to think about. And again, I do want to tell everybody, it ain't over till it's over. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and she has not even done her warm-ups yet. And quite frankly, once she is done, the proletariat can always just seize the opera house. So, of course, that takes a lot of organizing. Remember that. So we're joined today. I want to introduce Lawrence is going to be on the program around 6:30. Right now, however, we're joined by, I don't know if I should maybe just call you AK or whatever, however I should describe you, but...
we could use my Russian alter ego if you want.
Oh, okay. So Miss Kalishnikova is joining us, and she's a longtime activist, has been very involved as a volunteer on the ground, the Bernard stuff, marches, and all other sorts of left-wing activities. So thank you again for joining us on the program. Appreciate your presence.
Happy to be here.
Yep. So before we do get started with all of that analysis, I'm sure you're all dying to hear, I do want to at least start with some good news and some very pertinent local news that y'all should definitely hear about. So I will start, let's start at the top with just some very important a local update about the coronavirus. Now, we've joked a little bit on the program about, the mainstream media has a thing of trumping up pandemics, but we also did talk a lot about, on the last episode of the show, criticism, towards Gretchen Whitmer. This is a legit public health crisis. I'm actually going to get real personal here for a second. Not like, super personal, but I was supposed to have like a birthday party with my family, and we've canceled that, and it's literally because my folks are on the older side, and they have weaker immune systems than me and my brother. And as it turns out, there is reason to believe that we might have seen a COVID-19 case here in the area, specifically out in Portage. So I'm going to read this article real quick. This is from, I'm reading this from the WWMT website. This is written by Andrew Feather. Headline is, Stryker employee has reason to be tested for COVID-19, i.e. the coronavirus. Kalamazoo-based Stryker Corp. Confirmed Wednesday that an employee who visited one of the company's Portage locations has reason to be tested for the virus. In a written statement, a Stryker spokesperson said the company identified a small group of people who were in contact with the person and requested that they self-quarantine for at least 14 days. The statement released Wednesday said, "The health and safety of our employees, customers, and communities is our priority. This week, we learned an employee visiting one of our Portage, Michigan locations has reason to be tested for the virus. We have identified a small group of people who were in contact with this individual and requested that they monitor their health for symptoms, seek medical guidance and evaluation, and self-quarantine for at least 14 days. We have also activated our cleaning protocols following industry best practices and CDC guidance. We will continue to support our employees during this time." The spokesperson also said Stryker is encouraging employees to work from home, limiting visitor access at many of its facilities, and restricting employee travel to critical functions. In that vein, an update to a story that we did last week. Actually, let's just wrap up all of our coronavirus stories here. It's important to talk about, and we'll be getting into a little bit more political analysis territory in just a sec here. But I did want to update y'all. So, again, last week we were criticizing, the governor, who, has done her due diligence as Biden's co-campaign chair. For, not pressing the city of Detroit or using her gubernatorial authority to stop water shutoffs in the city of Detroit due to the crisis that the coronavirus brings. Well, luckily, the city itself saw the light before our governor did. And they have decided to do something about it. This is from Fox 2 Detroit. And Detroit is going to restore water service to unpaid homes to allow people to wash their hands to avoid the coronavirus. And, I think I'm going to go ahead and just play this clip from them real quick. And we will get back. You'll hear me, jabbering back just a sec. Here we go. Oh.
It's not a matter of if COVID-19 comes to Detroit, but it's a matter of when, and we need to be prepared.
The health department urging proper and frequent hand washing, which means having the water to do just that. Detroit announcing a water restart program for those whose water has been shut off or is about to be.
There is no financial reason anybody in the city of Detroit should have their water shut off.
Starting Wednesday, using funding from Wayne County and the state of Michigan, when you call and make an appointment, Detroit will turn your water back on for a fee of $25.
We will keep your rates at $25 a month as long as COVID-19 remains a health threat in this community.
And for the next 30 days, the state will pay the initial $25 fee. The water department says more than 16,500 people are currently on water assistance programs. Those people are not eligible for this program. Those who are eligible have had their water shut off or have recently received a shut-off notice in the mail or on their doors.
Call Wayne Metro. Make the appointment. As soon as you make the appointment, a work order will be generated and we will reconnect the service.
The city and the water department say they are trying to make this as easy as possible for people. You don't have to come down here to one of the customer service centers. You can simply make a phone call, make an appointment. They will come to you and get the water turned back on.
This is 5 or 6 years we've been fighting with the city officials about some kind of plan that would avoid mass water shutoffs. and the coronavirus had to push this over the edge. How awful.
That's Maureen Taylor with Michigan Welfare Rights. She says tens of thousands of Detroiters have had their water shut off over the years due to inability to pay.
Seniors, low-income mothers, children, veterans, the disabled, living in a city surrounded by the Great Lakes that are without water.
The water department says 3,000 households have had their water shut off since 2019. City workers will be going to those homes to see if people still live there and who needs help. But they are urging Detroiters to make that call for immediate enrollment in the new $25 plan. Call 313-386-9727 to make an appointment.
Call that number. We will be there to help you, and we'll get your water back on.
In Detroit, Amy Lang, Fox 2 News.
So again, yes, that was the Fox News affiliate out of Detroit. Which again, somebody find it's interesting around Michigan. A lot of times, the Fox, it's a weird kind of double consciousness thing where. Okay, not double consciousness, but a lot of the news or the CBS affiliates in Michigan are owned by Sinclair, and a lot of the Fox ones are not. So even though their overall daddy network is the hyper conservative one, a lot of times the Fox will let some fairly progressive commentary on their local news stations. Just like kind of an odd quirk of media capitalism for you. So, of course, there's still a problem there. What is that problem? Well, again, there's a lot of stipulations there. Now, they're talking about covering that first 25 for that first month. But history shows us, particularly if coronavirus does not just kind of turn up to be one of those flavors of the week that we hear in the media, or even, well, actually... Let's go back, my frame of reference. So I actually caught the H1N1 about a decade ago when I was in college, and it knocked me on my butt. And I was a very healthy, like 22-year-old or something at that time. But let's keep in mind, like the H1N1 lasted for several months. 1 month might not be enough to deal with the length of this crisis, and. It's one of those absurdities of late stage capitalism that we talk about so much on the show. So what's going to happen the second month? There are a lot of families in Detroit, even families here in Kalamazoo too, even though we're not facing these mass water shut-off problems. And some families in Kalamazoo are facing water shut-off. You should remember that too. It hasn't been as documented as in Detroit, but that is something that happens here as well. But that you would not continue that during the duration of the crisis or continue charging people money for something that is essential and needed to help quarantine a virus that, while it likely won't kill a lot of the younger, healthier people who listen to this program. If you have friends with immunodeficiency problems, if you have folks in your life who are older, it could prove quite deadly to them. Hand washing is no joke. It is very, very important. There should not be a $25 fee. Ideally, I think the city should kind of take it upon itself to do the outreach as well. And I know there's capacity issues and whatnot, but I also know as a community organizer, if you make the ask, people will come out to volunteer to help coordinate things like this. It's a life or death issue. I think back just to the Code Blue emergency as a good example. When we had that cold snap last year in Michigan, community organizers and volunteers just mobilized super quickly to make sure nobody froze to death in the cold. I think Detroit could probably do that to have people sift through, water shut-off records and start making some phone calls. That's just my 2 cents. I don't know, Ms. Kalishnikov, do you have any thoughts on that before I move on to the next one?
I don't think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, I'm actually going to pivot to a story out of New York, which again gets down to these issues of how just the heart of capitalist empire is not very well prepared for a crisis like this. This is from Mint Press News. It was published on March 9th, and it's about how New York won't close schools because homeless kids have nowhere else to go. And I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts from it, and I think even though this focuses on New York, this is very much relevant to Kalamazoo, and I will tell you why in just a moment. So, this is written by Alan McLeod. As the number of cases of COVID-19 in the tri-state area rises to over 150, Governor Andrew Cuomo declared a state of emergency across New York State. Local universities like Hofstra, Columbia, and Yeshiva, I believe... Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get to that later. Shut down their doors to students today. The city has no plans to close public K-12 schools because, and here's the kicker, tens of thousands of homeless children have nowhere else to go. 34,000 children in New York City's public school system currently live in emergency shelters, and a further 74,000 have only been spared the same fate by relatives, friends, or neighbors who have taken them in. With 1.1 million students, the city has the largest public school system in the United States, 1 in 10 of whom experienced homelessness in the 2018 through 2019 school year, according to a recent report from education group Advocates for Children. Thus, for many thousands of students, school is the only place they receive regular meals, shelter, medical care, and other vital services. For that reason, School Chancellor Richard A. Carranza said that they would remain open despite the risk and that closures would be considered only as a last resort. Homelessness among young people has reached epidemic proportions nationwide. Federal data shows that more than 1.5 million students across America experienced homelessness during the 2017 to 2018 year, with California atop the table. And yet the problem has been normalized to the point where children in the richest society in world history living on the streets are unremarkable. In a story about homelessness, New York child chess prodigy Tanitawa Adewumi, the New York Times and other media outlets described his playing style and his personal brilliance, but did not ponder how he came to be homeless or what that said about the society he lived in. The problem is particularly acute in the Bronx, where 37% of residents also often go to bed hungry, the highest rate in the entire country. And hold on just a sec. All right, so I wanted to check something. All right, so I did want to read, while we're on the topic of school closings, there was something that came out from President Edward Montgomery about WMU here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about our KPS school system in just a second, but this is kind of like, breaking, and I wanted to tell y'all. So this is Edward Montgomery. He put out this open letter today, March 11th. Dear campus community, after consulting with Governor Gretchen Whitmer, other Michigan University officials, and the local health department earlier today about the coronavirus, Western Michigan University will begin delivering instruction through distance education on Monday, March 16th through Friday, April 3rd, effective for all locations. The university will continue monitoring this fluid situation and determine by Friday, March 27th, if that time frame needs to be extended. In-person instruction will be suspended on Thursday and Friday, March 12th and 13th, to provide faculty the opportunity to begin moving course content online so that students may successfully complete the semester. More direction will be provided to faculty later today, and students can anticipate more guidance in the coming days. We are grateful to our faculty and staff members who are preparing to deliver services to our students at a distance, including advising and other related student services. The measure is being taken to ensure continued campus safety and help slow the spread of the illness, which helps ease demand on healthcare systems now and in the coming days and weeks. There remain no known cases of COVID-19 on campus. Earlier today, the Kalamazoo County Health Department indicated in a press release that there are no local cases, but caution that could change at any time. As a matter of fact, I think that has changed in the last 24 hours, given what we just found out about Stryker and Portage. Unless otherwise specified, all WMU sites remain open and services will continue to be provided, including our lovely radio show. You know what? You gotta bring you the news. I might get sick, but hey, it's worth it. It's got her teeth. That I don't know if I did catch it, and it took a turn for the worse. I would be satisfied with that on my tombstone. The Hoodrat Strategist, 1987 to 2020, calling out the establishment on its BS.
Rest in power.
Rest in power. There you go. But going along. For those living on campus, residents and dining halls will remain open and fully operational. More information will be forthcoming today. The university is taking these steps to protect the health and well-being of the WMU community. Please continue to monitor wmich.edu/COVID-19 for the latest information. I appreciate everyone's efforts to work together and keep our community safe. So, yeah, that is a really big deal. I assume a lot of y'all on campus have already heard about this, but still, that doesn't happen very often. Even, what I recently referenced, H1N1, they didn't close down campus when that happened. They just sent a lot of us to syndicues. This is a really big deal. And again, I really just want to emphasize, if you're young and healthy, it'll probably knock you on your butt. It won't kill you, but if you have people in your life with weak immune systems, anybody who's just kind of older and has health problems, you do not want to contract it, and you certainly don't want to pass it along to them. So let's talk a little bit more about this particular article about New York. And I wanted to put a fine point on what they're talking about here, because, excuse me, they kind of put a fine point on the end of it. From the inadequate public health provisions, the wave of intolerance, to the shocking levels of homelessness, the coronavirus is exposing many of the flaws and the dark undertones of American society. Without a functioning social safety net, the United States will find it harder than other nations to combat the virus's spread. And, that's, again, something that we were really trying to hammer home next week. Something I wanted to mention from this article, though, although it was mostly talking about New York, pop quiz. Any of y'all listening at home, or any of you aware which city in Michigan has the highest level of youth homelessness in the state? I play the Jeopardy music, but that would seem a little bit too gallows humor even for me. Yes, the answer is Kalamazoo, Michigan. Kalamazoo, Michigan, and the Kalamazoo public school system has the highest proportion of homeless students in the state, which means, and again, it's very rare that WMU goes above and beyond to close down their schools like this. KPS could be finding themselves having to make a similar decision, but there are students in our school district that have the exact same dilemma. If they don't go to school and get the school breakfast, if they don't go to school and get the school lunch, they might not eat that day. Not to mention, I do know for a fact that the primary homeless shelter, the Gospel Mission, typically their procedure is to, they don't let people stay there during the day. So what are these students going to do other than go out into the community and risk themselves with infection as they normally would? Not only that, but without those meals, again, if you're hungry, your immune system is probably worse, and it's harder for you to fight off infectious diseases. So what happens in is happening in New York. I think it's very instructive of the very same problems that we have here in Kalamazoo, and really break down the root to it. There's a lot of stuff that's been swirling through my head since yesterday's primary, but something that we're going to talk about later on the program. Bernie won the city of Kalamazoo handily by like a 2-1 margin. Yet our city is controlled by billionaires. Foundation for Excellence, we talk about it on the show a lot. And while they go out of their way to fund a lot of programs, up to including things like free college, there hasn't been anything done about housing or dealing with this homelessness crisis among our youth. And that is just so vital. So after all those coronavirus updates, we're getting kind of doomy and gloomy about our muni system, zoomies. Man, that was bad. I can't, that cute speak is not conducive. But I did want to tell y'all another bit of good news. There's been a fight going on for a very long time to get the mascot changed in Paw Paw. Some of those you follow, we've interviewed people on the show about this several times. There's been protests on and off for about the last 5 years. There was a very high-profile school board meeting several years ago where they almost changed it. It was like, I think it was like a 1-vote margin against over 4. And I'm going to read a little bit about this. So this is from WWMT. Paw Paw School Board votes to retire the R-Skins mascot at the end of the school year. The board voted 6-1 during the school board meeting Monday, March 9th, 2020 to, excuse me. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. To retire the R-Skins mascot at the end of the 2019-2020 school year. It has become clear that the controversy surrounding the R-Skin name and imagery is an impediment to achieving our district goals. The best path is to respectfully retire the R-Skin name and imagery with honor. Only then can we continue to advance toward a bright future while always celebrating our proud past. So, a school board member said no matter the outcome, there would be an unhappy side. So, the unhappy side would be willfully ignorant white folks who, it is my tradition to use this racial slur as my school district's name. It honors them. By the way, full disclosure.
My heritage.
Yes. Full disclosure. I was helping protest in Paw Paw about this. Some of the local indigenous folks, and yeah, that's actually something I heard. It's like, well, my cousin's native, and he doesn't have a problem with it. Oh, yeah. A lot of anecdotal examples, and again, you explain the history of like the R-Skins name. Not only is it like, I mean, you wouldn't have a team called the Blackskins or etc. But it is fundamentally rooted in white supremacy and colonialism. It used to be a buzzword for like when you skin indigenous people, and then they would sell like scalps or whatnot, to local outposts. Like that is where it comes from. There is no way, shape, or form that's honoring anybody. I think it's kind of that same logic about the heritage of the Confederate flag or whatnot. And I want to read a couple more things about this day. So the WWMT, they actually have a nifty little timeline here. And I'd recommend everybody check it out. It's actually pretty comprehensive. And I did want to try to have a few folks on the program to talk about this victory. People I know who've been involved in this struggle for a long time. But I do just want to give a shout out to local indigenous organizers with AIM, the American Indian Movement, folks like Moni Padula, folks like Julie Dye, Eugene Strong, and the rest of those folks who have really been Linda, have been putting the work into making sure that something is done about this and something has changed. And it was rough, it's not like Kalamazoo, where you go out and do like an anti-Trump protest to a bunch, a liberal town with liberal supporters. Everybody gives you the friendly honks, boop, boop, boop. People with Paw Paw got pretty upset when they would go in and protest. There was a lot of negativity, threats, just anger from people who fundamentally just didn't want to listen. And it's like, again, we're rooted in tradition. We don't have to listen to you. You are an outsider. You don't know what's best. But, let's keep in mind, the loudest is not necessarily always the majority. I also know a lot of people in Paw Paw who found it just very embarrassing for a number of years. And, this is a victory for them as well. So, again, I want to really thank everybody who's been involved in the struggle for the last couple of years, and props to the Paw Paw School Board for finally coming around. It is the 21st century, after all. And we can have a little bit of anti-colonialism as a treat. So hopefully we can have the full menu in a few years. We'll see. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. I think my co-host will be coming on in just a few minutes. And then we're going to take a deep dive into the Michigan primary. What happened? What didn't happen? What is yet to come? And all that jazz. Y'all listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Campus Outreach is looking for... Hang on. College radio can pretty much be summed up in 5 words.
89.1 FM, Radio Evolution.
Dead air. Dead air.
Depression can take many forms. It can feel like static in your brain, or as if everything around you has lost meaning. It can debilitate even the strongest of people. 89.1 WIDR is here to tell you that there is help and a way to improve mental health. WMU offers counseling for all students in the greater Kalamazoo community at Syndicuse Health Center. There is no need for an appointment for first-time visits. Open counseling times are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or Thursday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Syndicuse is located at 1903 West Michigan Avenue, Kalamazoo. For more information, please call 269-387-3287 or visit www.wmich.edu/healthcenter.
cars jamming today. Alright folks, it's time for more. One day as a child, I was pulled into a portal. Those robots, they came and took our jobs. Those robots, they came to our portal. Those robots, they came to our portal. One day when the future, there will be robots. Oh, they will come through. They portal into your mind. Those robots, they'll run into those robots.
Hello. Hey, everybody, we're back. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. So, now that we've talked about coronavirus, we told you some good news. Now we're going to dive into yesterday's primary. And, you know, I personally I didn't check the results until this morning. And even then, I probably did kind of a bad job as a radio host because I I was like, did he win Michigan or not? There was like a 13-point spread, I believe. I can't recall if all of the absentee votes had been counted yet, but I know there's a lot of them. I think by the time those are done being counted, that margin might tighten up just a little bit, but it's still far and away from what a lot of Michigan progressives and leftists were hoping for. I will go on a statewide analysis in just a sec, but I do want to give y'all just a little bit of information about, again, we always try to localize our coverage. So let me tell you a little bit about how Bernie did here in the city of Kalamazoo. So in this round in 2020, Bernie won 10,039 votes. Biden got 5,682. So Bernie beat Joe Biden by about a 2-to-1 margin here in the city of Kalamazoo. Excuse me.
Typing.
Yeah. In 2016, Bernie got 7,119 votes. So he basically upped turnout in the city of Kalamazoo by about 3,000 votes. That's really substantial. And anybody who was here and saw the ground game going on can really tell you why. There were canvassers all over the neighborhoods. People were all out. The office downtown was bustling and busy. There were volunteers that got bussed in from as far away as Chicago to come in and knock on doors. Just to put that in perspective, the local election we just had in 2019 had about 10,000 voters. So roughly equivalent, as many people voted in the local election in 2019 came out for a presidential vote primary just to vote for Bernie Sanders. And also put that in perspective in that local election, while we only got like one kind of progressive person up in the city commission, that'd be Patrice Griffin. I would also want to point out, there were two candidates that explicitly called themselves socialists. One was this guy named Andy Argo. What a joke. 1,449 votes. And then Emily Demarest, who got about 3,300 votes. And it's worth noting that she did better than any other progressive candidates, including David Benak, who ran for mayor. So that's about the amount of people who voted for Bernie in the city of Kalamazoo. That's about 13% of the city's population. I think it's very interesting that, living in a city like this, where, I talked about the Excellence Foundation at the start of the show, where we have this, unique funding apparatus where the billionaires directly fund the city budgets. Kalamazoo is going to be very interesting in the next few years because we are right at that. I think we're like right at the intersection of neoliberal oligarchy and, burgeoning kind of radical progressive socialist politics. So everybody in this city who's feeling really down about the results today, and we're going to kind of talk about the who, the when, the why, and the what of what happened, here in Michigan and around the country. Keep in mind, at least here in the city, if you are a socialist, if you want to organize around working class power, you have the wind at your back. If you got involved in this campaign, if you made phone call, or in the Bernie campaign, if you made phone calls, you volunteered, you canvassed, etc., get involved in a local org, a local anti-capitalist org. Couple of suggestions. We got the YDSA on campus, the IYSSE on campus. We've got the Southwest Michigan DSA. We've got Movimiento Cosecha. We have Extinction Rebellion. We have the Kalamazoo Socialist Party, which is run by yours truly. So, if you just can't get enough of me on my radio show, you can come help me organize the working class. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to stay involved in this movement, and I really hope all of you be sad, do a little self-care, get into a bubble bath, whatnot, but you got to stand up, dust yourself off tomorrow, because you know what? This city needs you. The city needs you. And that is going to matter no matter who wins this primary and whoever wins this general election. It's kind of hard to think of where do we start, because there's a lot to talk about. Lawrence and Miss Kalishnikova.
Yes, a wild Lawrence has appeared. Yes.
So here's something I want to go back to. Something I was talking about. A lot of people were contacting me. A lot of my contacts from around the country, because Michigan. All eyes were on Michigan. I had people telling me it's I think who wins there is going to win the thing. And something that kept popping in my mind was, we've expanded access, voting access, a whole lot since the last round, with absentee ballots and same-day registration. I thought that would work well for us, but it didn't. It didn't cover that spread. It didn't create another virtual tie like last time. I think there's a lot of issues that feed into that. I want, Lawrence, what is your take? Why do you think Michigan couldn't hold that tie that we did last time? What is your hypothesis?
All right, I wrote this on Facebook the other night, and I pretty much, and it's a quote from Crystal Ball. Crystal Ball said, let me find it. Crystal Ball said she wants to thank CNN and MSNBC and the establishment Democrats she wants to congratulate them on their fantastic level of propaganda that they were able to get through to the overwhelming masses, because it worked. It worked. The main thing that what it's done, it's made it much easier for Donald Trump to get 4 more years. We are rolling the dice with Biden maybe being the nominee. Now, Bernie has in his, if you saw his latest press conference, is kind of angling that in the sense of saying, yo, if Biden wins, he's going to do whatever he can to make sure that Trump gets out of office, because Trump has to get out of office. But also these issues, and he laid out the issues, are the issues of the American people and what they want. And we saw within the last 48 hours, 72 hours, Biden is not seeing it. He's not understanding it. He went on Lawrence O'Donnell and said that he would veto a Medicare for All bill if it passes through the House and the Senate.
And it's important to note, Super Tuesday polling showed even in states where Biden won handily, Medicare for All was polling extremely well.
Wait. Just to give more I'm glad you said that. To give more context, every single state that has voted in the primary so far overwhelmingly supports Medicare for All. The state that was the closest, and it's Medicare for All is over water. Mississippi voted, and it was 49 to 46. 49% approve, 46% disapprove of the Democratic Party. If you poll Democrats across the country, 80% of the base supports it. If you poll independents, it's over 70. It's between 65 to 70%. If you poll Republicans, if you poll Republicans, it's between 45 to 52%. So that means the overwhelming majority of the country agrees with that policy. That's one policy that we can get into. But Biden keeps talking about just expanding and having a public option, and he's literally putting his finger towards the Democratic base and the people that he needs to come and turn out. Now, I'm happy that Kalamazoo came and turned out. Kalamazoo did their thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy that that grassroots organizing still has power. You know what I'm saying? But we also have the biggest elephant in the room, which is the generational divide. The generational. If you look at any of the polling that came out, people who were 45 and younger turned out for Sanders. Overwhelming majority, it was like between 60 and 70%. People who were 55 and older, people who are 55 and 50 to 65 turned overwhelmingly supported Joe Biden. The majority of people that voted were people who were 50 and over. That's what it is. So it's not that people don't support our policies, and it's not the fact that people don't support the ideas that Bernie talks about, because they do. We need more of those people to come out, and the thing that we talk about all the time, what is it that this is my last point because I know I'm rambling. We always talk about if you try the same thing over and over again, you expect a different result, and you're going insane. So Joe Biden's just like Hillary. Hillary even said that recently in an interview. If you haven't seen that interview, I think that's hilarious, and I actually want to play that clip. Hillary, Joe Biden's just like Hillary. Hillary's just like the dude that lost to Bush. Both dudes that lost to Bush, Gore and Kerry, and they're just like the Democrats that lost before them. Like, when we have centrist Democrats that go against faux populist Republicans, the faux populist Republican wins every time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's and the thing that's going to be the most annoying is that we already seen this story play out before, and we already know who's going to get blamed. Because I'm calling it now. I don't think Biden's going to beat Trump. And when he loses, bruh, we're gonna like the millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, all of those people, all of us, Bernie Bros and all that stuff, we will be blamed. Susan Sarandon and everybody else will be blamed again. They're gonna blame Russia. They're gonna blame all of us who's been yelling, "Yo, that's an iceberg. He is not going to win." And
yeah, I think a lot of us are concerned. History repeating itself. I know a lot of us millennials and Gen Z felt like Cassandra, the prophetess of doom, 4 years ago, and it's like, was it same as it ever was?
Yeah. I feel like we run through this argument every time when we say, "Yo," because I actually, and I'm gonna quote another progressive. They said, if Biden wins, what's gonna happen? We're not gonna get Medicare for all. We're not gonna get a Green New Deal. We're not gonna get. We're not going to cancel student loan debt. We're not going to get free college and tuition.
Hell, we're not even going to save Social Security.
Regressive.
Biden has advocated for cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. He's advocated for going harder on the war on drugs. And we saw what he did last time when he worked with Strom Thurmond when he wanted to fight for the war on drugs, because he's against legalization of marijuana. He's against policies that the overwhelming majority of the base of the party wants.
Oh, and he was still on the fence as to whether women's reproductive health care was a right as recently as 2006.
Yeah.
So thank you. Again, another great point. So my thing is, you're expecting people who are 50 and younger, who will have their lives uprooted because of climate change, because of the Zika, the coronavirus. You just got done talking about it. What's a better case for Medicare for all than talking about a pandemic? Than talking about the fact that you have people who are going to be working with food, working with children, working in schools. Some kids, the only time they're going to get a meal is at school, so they have to go to school. And you're going to say that these people are going to be hit with a bill that's going to force them to be bankrupt and be homeless, or they're going to get sick, and they're either going to get. So the idea is either they're going to get sick and not get covered, they're going to get sick and just die, or they're going to get sick and they're going to get a bill that's going to end up bankrupting them.
So
I'm sorry. So my last point, and I'll shut up. So my last point is, Biden, we have done all that we can do to say that Bernie is the best case for best case to win. The establishment and the establishment media, and they're the biggest culprits of this. They kept saying he's more electable. We're gonna see if a conservative Democrat is more electable, and when he fails, we're gonna say I'm gonna make sure to personally do this. I'm gonna make that montage of all these mainstream media figures saying Joe Biden's more electable, Joe Biden's more electable, Joe Biden's more electable, and then when he loses, I want to make sure I send that to them. They did this. It's the same thing that they did with Hillary,
implying that they're on any level capable of accepting responsibility for the consequences of their own action.
Oh, they won't.
We'll always find some way that it's our fault.
Oh, no.
We made this happen out of pettiness, the Russians, something.
Oh, no. That it will definitely be our fault. It's our fault that we can't buy housing because we have trillions of dollars of student loan debt. It's our fault that we can't go out and tip waiters if we go out to bars and stuff because we don't have money to go out to eat like that. It's our fault that
Bernie isn't winning the primary states. So I just I wanted to switch over to Ms. Kalishnikova real quick, but I did want to say I want to touch on like the whole youth vote versus old vote thing in just a sec. I did want to kick it over to you because one, I think you have an kind of more of an outside perspective. Me and Lawrence kind of entrenched here in KZoo. Also, I just want to kind of pick your brain, like your analysis of like how it went down yesterday, and kind of what it might mean for the rest of the primary. It really just, if anything else, either me or Lawrence has said, kind of bounces off your brain that you want to bring up. Please do, by all means.
Oof, where to start? Full disclosure, I am actually on the national payroll at this point, which is one reason I'm not using my real name.
Ooh.
I may be getting close to crossing some lines. I'm also getting close to the point of not caring. So,
there you go.
Try and keep that in mind here, but yeah. Jesus. As far as Michigan goes, yeah, it's disappointing. I think it does need to be taken into consideration that a lot of people in 2016 weren't necessarily voting for Bernie Sanders. They were just not voting for Hillary Clinton. A lot of those people may see Joe Biden as a slightly more palatable option than Hillary Clinton was for reasons, some of which make sense, some of which don't. The sexism thing may come into play. It's not like they both didn't support NAFTA. That's a weird one, but yeah, that old electability argument every damn time. Yeah, it's just especially for the older voters who we know constitute a greater chunk of the electorate. He's the safe, comfortable, familiar option. And I think it would have been different if we'd gotten a debate before the primary. Maybe coming on the heels of Iowa and New Hampshire, watching him do so badly, maybe there might have been a little bit more trepidation. Can he actually pull this off? But then we had South Carolina and some of those southern states that kind of bolstered the courage of people who might have been on the fence about that. And they're like, oh no, see, we're good. We're good. We can fall back on our safe, familiar option. Don't have to get into all that messy revolution stuff that the kids are on about. Mm-hmm. And of course, what do they care that we're drowning in student debt and can't afford anything?
Yeah.
Literally, they got theirs. It is disappointing. It's disappointing too to see. Bernie's right in a way that like his ideas are resonating with people. As Lawrence was saying, Medicare for All polls so highly in these states that Biden won. It just seems really frustrating because Biden's out here saying even if it made it to his desk, he would veto it.
Yeah, he said that. Literally.
He actually said that.
Yeah.
Said the quiet part.
Not to interrupt. They've been saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
So when Bernie was winning, they said, "Yo, hey guys, if Bernie wins the nomination, we should have the superdelegates take it from him at the convention. Hey, the person who has the most wins or most votes and most delegates should not be the nominee." They literally went on stage and said it, and then multiple people on mainstream media said, "You know what? I agree with that perspective."
Even Elizabeth Warren was signaling support for this idea by staying in the race despite performing so poorly.
No, she said it on stage, and she's the anti-corruption candidate that started taking super PAC money.
Yeah.
No, here's my thing.
We're gonna talk about that too.
No. Before because I'm glad we're gonna talk about it. But this is my other thing. Everyone, and I want to make this point because I didn't get a chance to make this point online, and I'm going to. Every Democrat that consolidated around Biden, and they consolidated around him after Super Tuesday, and so that means Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Julian Castro, all of those people are just craven politicians.
Yeah.
Because think about it. So like Clyburn's a conservative Democrat, but he's a conservative Democrat in South Carolina. So like his name has weight. That's what that is. Bernie, and that's a failure on Bernie's part. He should have gotten Clyburn's endorsement, even though Clyburn may not have did it, or at least had Clyburn sit it out. That could have happened.
I mean, Bernie's response to that does make sense to me, though. He's not, the old style of politics is you go around and you try to cut deals and you beg for people's endorsements. And Bernie's worked with Clyburn in the past, but he knows that they're ideologically, miles apart. So he's not really in the business of going around and begging for endorsements. He's more likely to go to likely allies and try to build a bigger movement around people who are politically on the same page as him. He knew Clyburn was not going to endorse him.
But this is the reason why I disagree with that. Because, again, it goes back to the idea of you have to... One, you have to cut into the narrative of electability. Two, you have to cut. You also have to understand that in a lot of southern states, a lot of those older voters, a lot of those are older black voters, and they watch mainstream media and they follow the leaders of that in that area. So even if Clyburn wouldn't have endorsed him, he could at least said, well, "Can you at least wait until after Super Tuesday?" That could have been a conversation that they could have had. And the other thing that I'm also saying is, when you look at Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, or they chose to endorse after Super Tuesday to make sure that they put in as much news media and media attention to get Biden's support up in the last 6 states. These are all Democrats who said that he was in cognitive decline. Mm-hmm. These are all Democrats who said that he was a part of the problem, yet they think that he can beat Trump. Yeah. Think about that. Mm-hmm. These are all people who said your policies are things that I had to fix when I was in office.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And if you don't think that's going to not come back to hurt Joe, then you are insane, in my opinion. And that's the other part that makes it craven to me, because I'm like, and that's why the whole thing with Warren made me upset. Warren, yeah. Miss Presley, even Al Gore. Al Gore's not a progressive, but Al Gore, you've been talking about climate change for years. Biden's not going to do anything to help fix the catastrophic issue of climate change.
No, he's not even in the middle of the pack where that is concerned. He got close to an F, I believe, for some of those climate organizations.
He wants to get back into the Paris Climate Accord, and I think that's about it. But he was recently dancing with the idea of giving bank bailout to oil companies. That was recently in the news.
Yeah.
And this also goes back to the mainstream media's problem. When they say we're all on the same team. I do not agree with bailouts to oil companies. I don't know a progressive that agrees with a bailout to an oil company.
No. Or the fact that, Joe has a lot of fossil fuel personnel on his campaign staff, along with all the other nasty industries that we talk about on the show.
He's thinking about putting Jamie Dimon as head of Secretary of Treasury and put Bloomberg as part of the head of the World Bank. And Elizabeth, and that's why I'm saying Warren, Ayanna Pressley, and the other progressives, y'all didn't come out for Bernie during this time. Warren went from being a Republican 30 years ago to fighting for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because of the bankruptcy legislation that Joe Biden passed.
Actually, I have a clip. This is a clip kind of talking about what's been going on with Warren and some of her supporters.
We could get help from one of the groups in the liberal movement.
No. Don't trust the liberals. They will betray you.
Oh, yeah, and every time.
Play that one more time. Back. No, but no. So the part that I was trying to get to, Warren was created the CFPB because of the banking legislation that Hillary Clinton supported and Biden also supported. The Obama administration, Joe Biden included, hated that legislation, hated that organization so much that out of spite they made sure that she didn't run it. So instead,
it should be noted, one Bernard Sanders actually stood up to Obama in Elizabeth Warren's defense, making the case she should be allowed to run it. Cool to see her repay that.
I'm glad you said that, and that's my point. You're gonna go on Saturday Night Live You're gonna take all this time you're gonna do all this time for self-care. That's great. I have no problem with self-care. You're gonna do all this stuff.
I have a little problem with it.
No, my problem is this. You took all that time and you spent the majority of your time after a good portion after you started losing in the polling to attack Bernie Sanders, who you ideologically agree with, even though Biden is worse and is the reason why you became a Democrat in the first place. Come on now. Come on now.
It is a little bit, I don't know. Because say alarming, except I'm not really surprised, but it is becoming more and more evident for how many of these so-called progressives or progressive adjacents like Kamala Harris that this is a brand. It's nothing more than that. You know, she was selling merch off of her whole thing with Joe Biden. You know, I was that little girl that, whose classroom was integrated and you fought against busing. Turns around and endorses it. You know, Warren's whole, I got a plan for this. I care about these issues. I understand them. I understand the crises that they constitute. Turns around and, is nowhere to be found when it comes time to endorsing the only progressive left in the race.
I want to kind of bounce off that. So I'm going to call someone out. So Matt Longjohn, who almost beat Upton and lost because of Joe Biden. Let's not directly, but Joe Biden came and endorsed Upton before that particular election in 2018.
Oh, he didn't just endorse him. As I recall, he got paid something like a cool $300,000 to give a speech.
Yes,
he gave. So as the story goes, yes. The Republican Party in Kalamazoo asked Joe Biden to come and talk and give a rousing speech that to big up his friend Fred Upton that he has worked with a number of times. Mm-hmm. And he did not endorse Matt Longjohn, who in my opinion, who's cool. He's not as progressive as David Benack, but he's good. But he's cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he did not. So he basically said, "Yeah, Fred Upton's cool.
Yeah,
Fred Upton's a good guy. Fred Upton's my guy."
Yeah. Important to know. Since last week, Gretchen Whitmer became Biden's co-chair. So not only did Biden basically endorse Upton and get paid for it, Bernie Sanders came and stumped for Gretchen Whitmer in that very close election. Biden was nowhere to be found. Yet, of course, it wasn't really a big surprise that Miss Blue Cross Blue Shield endorsed who she did. But, okay, I digress. I want to reel it back to the Warren thing because I had an important point that I was going to get to.
But Bernie doesn't help. He doesn't help the party. He doesn't stump for down ticket candidates.
Yeah, if you look at how many people he stumped for.
I just got to ask. If Bernie Sanders stumped for a Republican and got paid $200 to $300,000, could you imagine what the
disqualified?
Could you imagine what the mainstream media would have said about that?
You could say that for any one of 3 million things that corporate Democrats do on the daily and get away with. There's two standards, one for them and the one for Bernie is somewhere in the stratosphere. You can't even find it.
All right, so I wanted to round out this point about Warren, and not all, but some of supporters, because granted there were a lot of Warren supporters who just with common sense who were like, I don't like Bernie Sanders, but policies are more important. I'm gonna vote this way.
It's true. I saw a thing the other day. Something like 35 of her high-ranking staffers signed a thing saying we're behind Bernie. We understand this is important.
Yeah, and I opened up with that clip about the liberals because something I've been saying from the beginning is like the most important difference between these two candidates who are quote unquote progressive is their theory of change. Elizabeth Warren from the beginning signaled that I want to see what I can do myself. Had this vision of like getting things done within the Washington paradigm. Bernie has always been about building mass movements to get things done. I read a lot of history. I believe that. But that's not to discredit Warren and all that stuff. But here's something I've been seeing from there were a significant number of Warren to Biden people who somehow think being able to get through political wonkiness in Washington is somehow more important or somehow a better skill. I literally saw somebody said, it's like, well, Joe Biden doesn't agree with anything, but I think he can get things done in Washington. Get what done?
Get what done?
Get things that he's been diametrically opposed to his whole career done? Is that what you're talking about?
No. When they say get things done, they mean get Republican healthcare plans like the Affordable Care Act done, or get legislation like civil asset forfeiture laws, the discrepancy between powder cocaine and crack cocaine, pro redlining housing discrimination. When you say get stuff done, you mean he moves to the right-wing perspective and consolidates with Republicans. Remember, during the Obama administration, their grand bargain was to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Bernie Sanders was literally outside of the White House saying, hey, yo, President Obama, Joe Biden, I need y'all not to forget y'all promise to not cut these programs that the overwhelming majority of our base supports.
So, and I want to kind of cap off, too, so why I referenced Matt Longjohn. They made a Facebook post, and, he's got a really huge political platform around here. He almost beat Upton. He's the first one. He's gotten closer than any other Democrat to unseating him. And he goes on Facebook and says he's making a protest vote for Elizabeth Warren. And again, he has...
What?
Yes, he did that. I replied, and this is my reply to him and everybody else I was seeing who's like, I'm either protest voting for Warren or I was with Warren, I'm going to switch to Biden. Here's the deal. A protest vote, so what was a protest vote in 2016? It was like, the political party cheated my preferred candidate, and this is provable, and the current candidate has been diametrically opposed to everything I stand for my entire life. So yes, I'm voting out of conscience. And you were called a monster, a spoiler, just the worst sort of human being. People who are quote unquote doing a protest vote for Elizabeth Warren, or from Warren to Biden, are basically saying, well, I'm doing this protest vote because even though there's a candidate in the race who has all of the same or close to similar policies of the candidate I was originally supporting, for some number of reasons, usually it goes back to Bernie's too angry, or or the whole thing about internet trolls, etc., but all of these extremely superficial reasons to not vote for a candidate who. Let's talk about the stakes here, folks, and I hope that you've been hammering this away to all of the older voters, and we're going to talk about that in a second. The difference between these candidates is night and day, life and death. One has a climate change policy that could at least set a floor for us to mobilize around to save the planet from extinction. One does not.
Just to add to that, one has a policy that's going to make sure that 68,000 people do not die because they do not have adequate health care. The other one wants to continue the system that lets them die.
And if your main argument, and I'm going to say this, if your main argument is that people online were mean to you, listen, it is actually a legit criticism about people are toxic little trolls online. This does affect the left. It affects the right. I have gotten on people's cases all over the political spectrum, whether you're a Marxist-Leninist, a democratic socialist, a liberal, etc. You are not going to build a movement of any kind if you are an a-hole to people on the internet. However, if you are running for office, if you are representing something larger than yourself, and I know this, I ran as an explicitly revolutionary socialist in the city of Kalamazoo. Do you have any idea how many trolls I had on my page? I had people threatening to get in fistfights with me, etc., etc., etc. If you are going to cite that as the reason not to, endorse the Bernie Sanders movement, how dare you, all right? There are people in my orbit who have gotten death threats that were extremely credible on the local level, and But you know what? Chapo Trap House is a thing, or you know, people send snake emojis.
I used to believe that poor people should have health care and not die of preventable causes, but then somebody tweeted a snake emoji at a New York Times reporter who makes six figures, and so now I got to vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah, dog. That means you are not about that life. What that means in a nutshell is that you are the moderate white person that Martin Luther King talked about in his letter from a Birmingham jail. Every time I've gotten on this radio to talk about it. Excuse me.
Are you sure you have the standing to talk about that?
No, yeah. See, you try to white explain to me while I'm on the radio.
Don't let Hillary Rosen hear you.
Like if Hillary Rosen wants to call me an angry black man, you're right. Here's the problem. Nina's nice. Yeah. I'm not. Now here's the thing. If you are saying that people online are mean to you, so I'm going to ignore my values and principles, that means you didn't have those values and principles to begin with.
Ding, ding, ding.
That means you care more about your privilege than the lives of people that you say that you care to affect positively.
Yeah.
Because while you will be okay because the status quo may be may stay the same, while you might still be okay, those other people, the college students who have 50 to 100K in student loan debt, the people who are going medically bankrupt because of bills, people who are fighting for 15. You just told all of those people, the Sunrise Movement. You just told all those people.
I think you mean dark money.
Oh yeah, the dark money facts.
Yeah, you just told
dark money kids.
You just told the majority of the Democratic base and people who support you that you care more about your civility and your decorum than their actual lives getting better.
It's like there's no faster way to out yourself as someone who's immensely privileged as to, delineate, well, this was just going too far. Someone said a mean thing online and therefore I don't have to live up to my stated values.
Yeah, Matt, dog. Congratulations, you played yourself. Like real talk. Yeah. Like real talk. When I see you, I'm going to say that to your face. And I also made a post on it on Facebook. If you're a black person that voted for Joe Biden, if you are an American that voted for Joe Biden, you voted for somebody who will lose, who's more likely to lose to Trump. You voted for somebody who lied about being locked up with Nelson Mandela or trying to go see Nelson Mandela. You voted for somebody who forgot who his wife and his sister is. You lied. You voted for somebody, or you placated for someone who forgot the Declaration of Independence. And also
the thing. Yeah.
No, but also been lying about his civil rights record since the 80s.
Not only lying about it, but like it's not even like, there's no argument to be made in his defense at this point because he admitted before that was not true. And now he's reversed and he's back to lying about it again.
So my point is, look, if you liked Warren, that's cool. Warren supported the same type of policies and that's the other reason why I said it's so craven and why I'm so disappointed. Warren, Booker, Castro, Harris, Gillibrand all supported Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All policy. Mm-hmm. They all came out and saying that they were progressives. And then when they realized that Bernie had that lane locked down, then they pivoted. Mayor Pete too. Mayor Pete started off saying, yeah, I'm a progressive. I support Medicare for All. Medicare for All is the middle ground policy. He was arguing for it. When the donors told him, fall in line, we're not going to let you do it, then you saw that pivot. Mm-hmm. So, nah, dog. It's Warren has ruined her legacy, and she did it because of this self-aggrandizement that she had. She ruined her legacy.
We're all being sexist.
I'm a self-hating woman.
Yeah, got some internalized misogyny there.
We're gonna be Here's the thing. If you think they're gonna call us sexist now, Biden's VP, I guarantee you, is going to be a woman and a person. It's going to be a woman and it's going to be a person of color. It's most likely going to be Kamala Harris or Stacey Abrams, or it's going to be somebody like. It might even mess around. No, it's not going to be Warren. It might mess around and be Kirsten Gillibrand. It might be one of those three.
I happen to know who he's leaning towards for that.
Who?
She was mentioned already on this episode. Let's see.
Oh yeah, I've heard this as well. There are some rumors going around that he might pick our lovely governor, which
Gretchen Whitmer.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Maybe we can have.
I mean, here's the thing: Gretchen Whitmer did do the State of the Union. She did do State of the Union and said nothing.
Yeah,
and like we broke down how she literally said nothing.
Yeah,
it's like.
You know, in my opinion, that you know what, that's good. Let's have a what do you call it? Not a something election, and you know maybe we can run Abdul again with that tree guy.
Dog. Here's the thing.
Although he didn't do that great.
Here's the thing. He got in second, and the reason and a good majority of that is because the other dude that was also in the race was Sri Thandar was trying to buy his way into the election too. So that's not even we're gonna get into that. But here's the thing: if she is planning on being his VP and he picks her, I mean, Abdul talked about a state-ran Medicare for all. I am all for Abdul. Hey, Abdul. Yeah. And we were supposed to have him on the show recently. I still got to give him that email to get him on the show. Yeah. But I'm all for that. Here's the thing. When that happens, because I said, Doc, I may not vote for Biden. I don't know if I'm gonna vote for Biden. But when that happens, they're going to say to the same Bernie Sanders supporters that were being vicious and that you're brown shirts, you're vicious, you're horrible, you're too active.
Oh, to a man that, by the way, a neo-Nazi unfurled a Nazi flag.
We're gonna talk about that later. We're gonna talk about that later. They're also going to say, you guys are now being sexist and racist, and y'all want to lose to Trump. That's what's going to happen if you choose not to fall in line. And I'm not sure if I'm one of those people who's going to, man. I can't even promise you. I can't even act like I'm going to.
You can tell how hard we really do want to keep Trump in office by the fact that we were supporting the man who every poll showed was the strongest candidate to run against Trump.
47 out of 50 polls, head-to-head matchups between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders won by high single digits. Biden, in those same 50 polls, if you go on Real Clear Politics, Biden loses a large, a much more than 40. He loses about 10. I think double to triple that number.
So I want to drill down a bit into the why, and we've already done that. I think an Elizabeth Warren endorsement could have shifted things. I mean, that's hindsight now. But I wanted to talk about a few other things we've kind of mentioned in the show. It's almost like to summarize, but I think I really want to put a fine point on all these things. So why are we at where we are now? Where, again, it ain't over till it's over. The math is, it doesn't look as good as it did last week, but it is still fully possible. And I want to talk about that later on, too, how, a win can still be feasible. But I also want to talk about really, what changed in the last couple weeks when Bernie Sanders was the front runner. So let's talk a little bit about the old people. We talked about that earlier, but I want to put, before Super Tuesday, before South Carolina, here's why the corporate media was panicking. And they were even, talking about Bernie as the front runner and talking about brokered conventions and stuff. It's because Bernie had a significant number of that older chunk voting for him, or, polling that they were going to vote for him in these states. Now, what changed between now and then when CNN, MSNBC were calling Bernie Sanders the front runner? All those endorsements came out pre and post South Carolina. That South Carolina gave him a big boost, and you had the news cycle on every station talking about Joe Biden as the electable candidate. Now, let's scope out a little bit. You have a complete change in the media narrative between Bernie as the front runner to Bernie can't beat Trump. Bernie can't beat Trump. Bernie can't beat Trump. Here's Joe. He's viable. He can.
And now you're also going to now, since he's the front runner, we don't need to have no more debates.
Yes.
We don't need to have no more debates. The DNC should step in, and we should not have any more debates.
Because speaking of Clyburn, apparently he was on NPR saying that we should basically just cancel the rest of the primaries. We have our nominee.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
and democracy.
And that's the other, and that's the other part.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what does that tell you?
It means your parents and grandparents who, if they only get their news from NPR, CNN, MSNBC, or maybe if they're a little bit more intellectual, Washington Post, New York Times, it means that they were basically terrorized by the mainstream media and saying, if you don't turn out, your kids and grandkids are going to vote in this unelectable socialist, you better turn out. So there was an uptick in voter turnout from older people who have been propagandized. And I do have a big problem with the whole youth narrative, and I want to explain that real quick before we get to you, Lawrence. So the whole young people aren't turning out narrative, I want to poke a hole in that. And there's this great article from InStyle magazine that goes into it in depth. Young people aren't turning out to vote, but it's not because they don't care. It's written by Rhinesford Stauffer, and I recommend everybody read it. I'm just going to do a couple of quick excerpts. If young people are frustrated with the current system, the reasoning went, why don't they show up to the polls? The short answer, voter suppression, which takes countless forms, including voter ID restrictions, inflexible work and school schedules, lack of civics education in school, the sudden closing and changing of polling places, which actually did happen here in a few places in Michigan, lack of child care or elder care, and hours-long wait times to vote. And I want to put a fine point on, even if you look at the data, another thing they talk about in this article is that young people, to a much greater extent than the last election, have embraced absentee ballots, and it's much harder to get demographic data from absentee ballots than when people show up to the polls. So that's going to skew the numbers as well to make it look like more, not as many young people are voting as there are. Now, should more young people be voting? Yes, but I think it's also unfair to say that they aren't turning out in significant numbers. They are. It's just the older people who have been terrorized into thinking Joe Biden is more electable are showing up in more significant numbers, and they don't face nearly as many institutional barriers to vote as younger people. As recently as yesterday in North Dakota, there was reports of the two biggest cities in North Dakota only having one polling point each. Now, I know people in Kalamazoo who think, half an hour is too long to wait for vote. If you see a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hour wait line, who is realistically going to be able to stay in line that long? Even the most hardcore Bernie supporter.
Especially when those lines are outdoors and it's 23 degrees out.
Yeah. If you got to work, if you got a kid, et cetera, it doesn't matter how passionate you are about your candidate, you can't vote.
We talked about that. We talked about that in Texas. We also talked about that, and we talked about that in 2015 and 2016 when it came to New York. That's a closed primary. Yes, Republicans do control. Republican-controlled states do take away access to ballot ballot boxes with gerrymandering and other things with that nature. So do Democrats. And Democrats do it as well in blue states. We talked about California. California is still counting delegates. To this, so it is a problem on both sides, and usually the reason why it's a problem on both sides because they're trying to stop the insurgent candidate. They're trying to stop the candidate who's a populist trying to support the will of the people. Now, on the Republican side, it's a lie, but on the Democrat side, it is true in most cases. Now, the problem that I see, the issue that we talked about before, is that Bernie had to overwin to win.
Yes,
he had to overwin. If it was going to get close, because Lee Camp from Redacted Tonight was talking about how the exit polling didn't match up with the computer data, and in multiple of the states.
I believe in Massachusetts it was about an 8-point difference.
Yeah, it was in
something like double the threshold for the UN to get involved if this were a country that cared about democracy.
Well, I mean, that's why we got to have that $700 billion military so people don't inspect our elections.
That's again, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's not that it's we knew that the Democratic establishment wasn't going to go quietly into the night. We knew this was going to be a fight. We knew that Bernie had to overwin. Now, there are things that Bernie, and we talked about last week, how there were things that Bernie should have did. Like he should have said, no, I am that unity candidate. I am I am the most electable. He talks about out of the head-to-head matchups, I beat Trump more than anybody else. He could have did those things more, being more aggressive. Now, he's not going to punch the media in the face the way that he should have, because that's not the type of character he is. That's not the type of person he is. And we can say, because there's Monday morning quarterbacking, that he should have been more aggressive, not just with Joe Biden, but also with the media. It's easy for us to say that. And he should have. That is true. But at the same time, in my opinion, it's still not over. We still have Illinois, we still have Florida, we still have the debate. It's just that if I'm going to be honest and objective, it's not looking pretty.
It's not looking pretty, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like there's no point in this process at which we should have gotten complacent and thought we weren't in for a very hard uphill fight every step of the way. And if you actually look at the math and not the spin the corporate media is putting on it, this is far from not doable. I believe Obama was 160 delegates behind Hillary Clinton after Super Tuesday.
Yep.
Which is
and
more
I think
than Joe Biden has on Bernie.
As of now, it's 150, and that's without even counting a lot of the states where Bernie has won, and they have uncounted delegates, which isn't that funny.
I was just going to say, as of
Iowa,
12:11 p.m. today, we're still waiting on 81 for California, where Bernie's up by over 300,000 votes. We're waiting on 22 from Colorado, where Bernie's up by over 100,000. Waiting on 20 from Utah. He's up there over 30,000 votes. And we're waiting on 36 from Washington. So there's a lot still in play. In fact, I think the total there is more than the lead Biden currently has.
Also to add to that, Iowa's caucus, they said that they cannot fix the errors that they had because it was on the government document, and they said because of state law, quote unquote, they cannot change it. And it was garbage. So they're putting in lies.
It's not very cash money
because they want to maintain decorum. That is.
They're ready to throw decorum out if it means ensuring Biden is their nominee. Of course.
Yeah. So and that's the thing. As much as I want to get on, as much as I'm mad at Warren, as much as I'm mad at the other candidates, as much as I'm mad at the just craven politicians that some of them are, the progressives will not forget. It makes me upset. It makes me upset because I'm looking at the aftermath of if Biden is the nominee. So that means he's going to get more Supreme Court. That means Trump, because I don't think he can beat Trump, which means Trump is going to get more Supreme Court seats.
Oh, and while we're talking about the Supreme Court, let's not forget Biden voted for Scalia.
Yeah.
Biden's treatment of Anita Hill helped anti-abortion people get on the Supreme Court. So I don't want to hear about that.
And Doug, and I mean, hey,
I don't necessarily want to forecast that far ahead yet, because we'll have a lot of time to do that in July, August, and all that stuff. I want to look out a week from now. So where we're at, again, Obama was in a worse place.
I also ask y'all one question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Andrew Yang endorsing Biden on CNN?
I hope all of you Yang gangers are gonna call that out. Unless maybe maybe Michael Bloomberg is like, yeah, I'll give everybody universal basic income. I think I got some change on my couch here. He
sent because I talked about it and I was bad with the math, and I'm sorry on my Facebook page I was bad with the math. He spent over half $500 million, almost $500 million on, and that actually shows you how strong mainstream media still is. He spent almost $500,000 and he got third and fourth place in a majority of the contest, and he still couldn't buy the presidency when they consolidated around Joe. And that should tell you a lot, that even this multi-billionaire who spent 10 times as much as it would cost to fix the Flint water system pipes could not buy his way into the election. He could have with that same money, he could have given every American $1.50. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's there's 357 million of us. He could have given every one of us $1.50. He could have fixed Flint water system 10 times over. He could have literally paid for universal free college. Like not universal free college. He could have not universal free college. He could have paid for he could have given a majority of the teachers in this country a raise. Like,
okay, so I want to pivot to the whole like path to victory thing, and I'm just gonna give my 2 cents, and y'all please chime in with your own thoughts on this. So, here's where I think we're at. Again, the math doesn't look good. It looked worse for Obama in 2008, but also keep in mind Obama, basically started taking, some of that money, and that cleared a path for him. Bernie's still like fighting a system that by tooth, nail, and claw does not want him anywhere that nomination. But is there still a chance to see the nomination happen? I think so. There's certain things that I think need to happen, and here's what I'm looking at. In these states coming up, yes, keep trying to drive up youth turnout, but at the same time realize there's only so much you can do in a rigged system. And here's where I think is going to need to happen. And it's kind of funny because I know I'm always talking about collective action and stuff, but I've seen even Bernie's got like some of the best like volunteer machinery I've ever seen in an election, and it's still the combination of the rigging and what the old people are thinking is doing it. You got to knock out one of those 2 legs. Now you can't do anything about the rigging, but the old people. Here's where I'm going with this. You've got this one debate left. I think this debate could change a lot of things. I am going to encourage anybody, if you have older relatives that live in any of the states coming up, make sure they watch that debate. Make sure they watch it. Because even if you because a lot of older folks will listen to their kids, some of them won't. There is a reason OK Boomer became a thing, because it's like, even though you might be right, they're like, I'm older and I know more things and you're wrong. That's an attitude a lot of our parents and grandparents have. Let's not lie. But can you deny the evidence of your eyes and ears? If they are watching these 2 men on the stage, they will be able to make their own determination about who is more cognizant, who is healthier, who is more quote-unquote electable. I think on Bernie's part, he is going to have to just knock it out of the park on the whole electability thing. Look at me. I've got this energy. I know, Biden's won a couple of states. He needs to call out that media narrative about electability. The only reason he's winning is because he's, media's convincing old people, et cetera, et cetera. But he needs to do it in a very toe the line sort of way where he does not offend people, where the media can't spin it in a certain way to be like, oh, Bernie's saying old people are gullible, blah, blah, blah. So what needs to happen is that contrast needs to happen where the older generation can see with their own eyes, at least enough of them can come to the conclusion that this guy is way more competent than the other, and even though maybe I'm a little worried about the ideological thing, This baggage is heavier than this baggage. And I think that's what needs to happen to turn this thing around. Thoughts on that?
Pretty much. I co-sign.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just going to be, people vote with their guts half the time, not their brains. And a lot of it is going to, they haven't really gotten too many chances to see Bernie and Joe have to go at it toe-to-toe. They've not had to see Biden have to hold up his own end of a debate by himself that long. Biden already can't even, Bernie's the one going over his time. Biden's, calling out his own time being over prematurely because he just can't, But I mean, if anyone who, if anyone watched Bernie's Fox News town hall the other night, if he turns in a performance like that next to Biden, fumbling over his own words and not able to remember facts that are really recent, I mean, it should be over if there's any logic in play at all here, But to reiterate what Andy was saying, make all of your older relatives glue their asses to the couch, threaten them, bribe them, do whatever you have to do, play the grandkid card, whatever. Get them to watch the debate, because so much of it is just going to be just the sheer gap between these two men in terms of intelligence, competence, record, all of it, energy level. I did think it was kind of funny that they. They're trying to keep Biden's rapid decline kind of out of the spotlight. But apparently they thought it was a great idea to have the debate be seated. Bernie can't stay seated during a debate. He can't stay seated ever. I've literally seen some of his stage directions, and it's we have to tell him things like, you can walk around, but don't go past this mark, or you'll be literally off of out of frame. He has a lot of energy, especially when he's talking, debating, etc. So all that's going to do is underscore the contrast between these two men even more, just in terms of sheer energy. Which I don't know if we still have people saying Bernie's too old or bringing up the heart incident or whatever, but I can't imagine anyone watching those two go at it and come away with the impression that Biden is somehow more electable or more likely to stand up in a fight against Trump or any of it.
Doug, we're talking about Biden. Y'all remember when Biden was talking about the reason why, when he was talking about, could you imagine if President Obama got assassinated? We're talking about that Biden. Folks, we're talking Biden's going to Biden, and what does that mean? He's going to hurt him. He's going to shoot himself in the foot politically. He was recently arguing with Michigan workers, saying that he was going to take him outside and whoop his ass. Now, here's the thing. I agree on the substance of the conversation, because they were talking about guns. I agreed with Biden, but at the same time, he told a female staffer to shush, which you know what I've had to do that when I was having a conversation and somebody else tried to butt in. I have actually done that. It doesn't look good, but I'm just gonna say that doesn't look good. It's not a good look, but I've done it, and that's kind of messed up. So, but I get it. If someone's trying to jump in while you're trying to make a point, you like, nah, let me work. Here's the problem: when you say, "Dog, you're full of something that I can't say on the radio," and say, "I'll take you outside and I'm gonna whoop your ass," that is not, it's feisty, and you're saying that old folks hey, he's a fighter. You're gonna put that against Trump? You're gonna put that against Trump?
There's feisty, and then there's
there's
lack
senile
of self-control and a lack of an ability to keep your temper, especially when you're talking to voters. It's just not acceptable. And it's not the first time. I mean, back what you were saying before about, if Bernie had one time done one of these things. This is not the first time Biden has shaken his finger in the face of a woman who was asking him questions about his record.
He told Latino, he told people from Cosecha, you should vote for somebody else. You should vote for Trump.
He told an immigrant man as well to go vote for Trump. He told a young woman who was questioning him about his record on women's health. Well, he really got in her face. There were some very alarming photos from that altercation.
He told a veteran who fought in Iraq, a war that he supported and he agreed with the Bush administration on. He got in their face when he's like, dog, I went to the war that you voted for.
There really is you can't emphasize too much the extent that even just this particular campaign, how much you don't even if all Trump could use was the 2020 campaign for Joseph Biden, he would have a library of real worthy footage to use in attack ads.
Material for days.
Yes. Yeah.
He's already doing it.
Yeah.
He's already got ads, though.
And he's already said on video, on audio, that he's more afraid of going against Bernie than anybody else. Mm-hmm. He's said that he's glad Hillary didn't pick Bernie because they would have been harder to beat, because going against Bernie's hard to beat. So you have the person that Trump says, dog, I don't know if I could beat him, but I'm gonna give him the person that he's going to maul. You're gonna give him the one that he's gonna maul.
Well, the sheer stupidity of putting up against Trump someone who effectively neutralizes our best attacks against Trump. This should be obvious to corporate Democrats anyway, because their major problems with Trump aren't anything substantive. It's just, he's rude, his comments about women, the nepotism thing, But you turn around and you're looking at the same thing in Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. The handiness, the inappropriate interactions with women.
So all of the weaknesses, none of the strengths.
None of the strengths, whereas Bernie is the opposite of this. It's none of the weaknesses, and he takes away Trump's strengths because he's so much of what Trump's base likes about him. He's bold, he's gutsy, says it like it is. He doesn't owe anyone anything. He's popular, beloved, the huge crowds, all of it.
One thing. So just to sum that up, we're gonna have the general, if Joe is the head of the ticket, the conversation's not gonna be about Medicare for all, which the overwhelming majority of the states agree with. It's going to be about Ukraine and Hunter Biden and corruption and who's more pervy and handsy. That's what we're going to have the conversation about.
Well, I personally can't wait.
So I actually did want to, I wanted to bring up, because this ties into what we've just been talking about a little bit. So last week, this is an article from The Intercept. So on March 10th, so I guess that would be in, it was the article was published March 10th. I think the rally was March 9th. But when Biden did a rally in Detroit, there was kind of this leftist Voltron that assembled to disrupt. So members of the Sunrise Movement, the Democratic Socialists of America, and Black Youth Project 100 made interruptions throughout the speech, calling him out for, the discrepancy on these issues. So I'm going to read just a little bit from what some of the folks did. So this is from Sunrise Movement people. The establishment vice president Biden has been a part of the entire career, has done almost nothing meaningful to combat the climate crisis and brought our society to the brink of climate catastrophe, which is why so many young people prefer the candidacy of Senator Sanders and his vision for a Green New Deal, Karasek wrote in an email. That said, the thing we dread most is 4 more years of Trump, and we will do everything to prevent that. So they personally, the Sunrise Movement, scored an F by the Sunrise Movement. Greenpeace recently gave him a B+, even though his grade was a lot worse. Earlier in the cycle, there was some talk of some money.
They're grading on a curve because they're comparing him to Trump.
Oh, that's right.
They're grading on a curve.
Yeah.
And no, outside of the fact that some money exchanged hands, So
the DSA folks came out. So it was all very issue focused. Sunrise called him out on his weak climate plan. The DSA unfurled banners criticizing Biden's support for NAFTA. And then Black Youth Project 100, of course, took part, talking about his atrocious criminal justice record. There's a video clip in the article. Simone Sanders is actually there, tried to engage the black activists in dialogue, and they disrupted it for about 3 minutes. And there's an article from this. As Biden's supporters cheered to drown out the protesters, Biden appealed for calm. It's not a Trump rally. He then dismissed them with a term that rankles Sanders supporters. Oh, the Bernie bros are here, Biden announced.
Dismissing women of color who've been evicted for medical bankruptcy as Bernie bros. If that's not corporate Democrats' entire strategy in a nutshell.
We talked about it. We talked about it on the floor. I'm so glad you said it. We talked about it before. Who's Bernie Sanders' biggest supporters?
Women of color.
Women, people of color, and so what do they say about Bernie Sanders? Bernie bros. They're violent. They are aggressive. They're harassers. They're thugs. So the white supremacist narrative that we've been hearing about minorities, about the disenfranchised, about women, about black youth, the super predators narrative, all that type of stuff. The Democratic Party and the mainstream media has been pushing that same narrative. To help who? To help the establishment stay in power. And the fact that you have not heard a word of that, especially from black media, from people who are black, who are on mainstream media, and that means also I'm looking at Joy Reid, I'm looking at Van Jones, I'm looking at Andrew Yang and others who are also on there, Donna Brazile and others. Like, y'all know that's wrong. Y'all know that's wrong. And y'all saying that these anonymous trolls who are online or people who are protesting because they are grieved by you not supporting policies that will help their lives, you're supporting the same white supremacist narrative that created the laws that put them in the situation in the first place. That's the thing that makes that pisses me off the most. That's one of the main things that's been pissing me off the most. Is you're reinforcing the narratives that creates the ideas and policies that still keeps those that are disenfranchised where they are.
Yeah, and so we're getting near the end of the program, and I want to bring up a couple of points. We don't have too many more episodes left until, this primary, I imagine it's going to go, there's a lot of gas in the tank. There's a lot of coverage that we're going to be given, but we're at a very interesting point right now. A lot of y'all are demoralized. A lot of people in like a more lefty milieu, whether you're like a communist or a Marxist or whatnot, are already telling Bernie people, it's like, they rigged it, give up, stop. Here's what I'm going to say. And I'm going to reiterate what I said at the top of the hour and expound on it. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and you know what? If the show don't end the way we want it to, the proletariat needs to seize the opera house. Now, I think that needs to happen regardless. But let me explain a little bit what I mean by that. What I mean by that is this. As long as there's a chance, I think you got to be really, myopic if you don't think having a little bit of social democracy as a treat won't be fundamentally good for this country. And you got to pay attention to what Bernie Sanders actually does too. A lot of people I know, and I hang out with a lot of super left-wing people. It's like, well, he's still an imperialist. The Yugoslavia votes. He's not as far left as I am. It's like, no, but he's inspiring people to organize, and that is what we are going to need, regardless of who becomes the president. So you know what? Yeah, go phone bank, donate, do all that stuff. If it doesn't work out, I think there's still some tickets to the Rage show before the convention. So make a whole week of it. But I need to emphasize, y'all. There's still hope, even in the context of this bourgeoisie capitalist political election in the heart of empire. And even if it doesn't work out, y'all, this was never the stopping point. This was just the end point. This election, this is kind of how I've been describing it to people. Whoever wins this election is going to describe, or who is going to be the terrain on which we are all going to have to rise up and organize and get the changes that we need. And that's the way y'all need to think about it too. Whether it's Biden, whether it's Trump, whether it's Bernie Sanders, that is what is going to be required of all of us over the next few years. The biggest thing that you should take away from the Bernie Sanders campaign 2016 and 2020 is that you need to go out there and organize. So you know what? He doesn't win. Go up, lick your wounds, but we ain't got time. We don't have time to bleed. We got to make sure. We got 10 years. Armageddon. It's been in effect. Come get a late pass. And I think, too, I don't think you can mobilize around, a Green New Deal alone. It's going to have to be all of the above. Think about everybody that we've been in allyship and accomplishmentship in the last few years. We're all going to have to get together. But, again, it's 53% of the delegates left to get.
I do want to ask one question. This is something that I did see, and I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
People have been saying, speculating that if Biden wins, that the Democratic Party may end up choosing someone else at the convention.
Really?
Like that is Joe Biden if Joe Biden goes into the convention and his cognitive decline is that bad that they will choose somebody else. My question to y'all is, who do you think they will choose?
Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God.
I don't personally see there being a whole lot of validity to that. I know the sound of it definitely is appealing to people that kind of want to think there's always some secret plot happening. Not that there isn't half the time, but I've heard from people within the Biden campaign that they are actually aware that he's not doing so hot, but they're fine with it. They're like, yeah, he'll pick a good Veep. It'll be fine. We're not worried. Yep. Which is honestly really funny considering the manufactured hysteria they tried to whip up around Bernard's heart incident.
Oh, yeah.
But, I don't actually. I don't really. I mean, I know that I forget what outlet ran with that whole thing of, we asked some superdelegates and they gave us this list of people they might try. Those aren't the movers and shakers in the party. No. Honestly, they're not the ones calling the shots.
Doc, the only way that, in my opinion, the only way that he will get the progressive base to fall in line, so to speak. No, I don't even think they would do that then. But if he had to do something crazy. He had to do something wild. Like he has to have Nina Turner be his vice president.
Yeah, but
he would have to have Nina Turner as it. If Joe played,
there is not a world in which Joe Biden picks Nina Turner.
I'm saying Joe will never do it. But if Joe did, then he would then they will have a better argument to say, "Hey, progressives, we need your help." Yeah. But that's not going to happen.
I think what we all do need to remember is the whole superstructure of all this, and I think it's been made pretty clear. I mean, they've said the quiet part out loud, literally on MSNBC and stuff this time.
Yeah.
But the people who run the Democratic Party, they know that Joe Biden is a weak candidate. To them, winning is a bonus. Mm-hmm. To us, winning is an existential mandate. It's life or death. Democratic Party, to them, they would rather have Donald Trump be president than Bernie Sanders.
100%.
Because 100%. Bernie Sanders threatens their pocketbooks in a way that Donald Trump never did.
I mean, dog, look at. I mean, let's be honest. Look at what Trump's passed. He passed tax cuts that wasn't as big as the Bush tax cuts, but it did help out. It did help out all the corporate donors. It did help out the
80% of those benefits went to the top 1%.
On top of the fact that what did Nancy Pelosi say? I'm best suited to lead the Democratic Party because I'm a great fundraiser, and we've been doing great while Trump's been in office.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, that's the thing. The leadership in the party really does not stand to have their way of life shaken at all by Trump remaining in office another 4 years. It's not their kids in cages. It's not their relatives on the streets being shot. It's not, they really wouldn't notice if you didn't tell them that Trump was in office versus Joe Biden being in office. I'm probably not supposed to say that, but oh well. But yeah, Bernie's the only one that really stands to threaten their whole cozy little arrangement. So as long as they get him out of the way, it's all smooth sailing for them. They don't really give a crap.
All right, so we're about out of time on the program. Just real quick, I do want to remind everything, palpable thing. Western is going to be doing remote classes for the foreseeable future because of the coronavirus. We're going to keep doing our shows because, hey, it's important. But I want y'all to just, hey, if you think you got systems, go see a doctor. And hopefully you got health insurance and you don't have, economic stipulations that prevent you from it. But it's serious, especially people with weak immune systems or the elderly are particularly vulnerable. If you think you got the systems, stay inside best you can. Although I will say, if you do run into, like, say, an old fossil fuel billionaire, maybe cough on them a little bit. I mean, if you'd like.
Come on.
If you find a rich person, maybe cough on them. Then you'll be able to find out if you have it or not.
Oh, yeah.
They will be able to afford health.
They can afford to get tested. American problems require American solutions.
Come on, man.
And this is why the free market, for-profit model is definitely best suited to tackling the issue of healthcare.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. Well, again, so to close out, I'm sorry, Lawrence. That was kind of mean,
it's funny and messed up all at the same time. Yeah. Because you know what's gonna happen. I can tell you what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go to Canada. Yeah. We already saw what Rand Paul was a prime example. Yeah. He got more money than everybody that's in this room. Mm-hmm. What happened when he had to go get surgery? Mm-hmm. Went to Canada. Yeah. So that's what's gonna happen if you come from a rich person. They gonna go to Canada. They gonna go to Europe. Yeah. They going to Canada.
Home of doctors who are slaves, literal slaves.
Yeah. Because universal health care is slavery. You know what I'm saying?
So we ended last time's show with a really dorky analogy about how this was like The Empire Strikes Back. Well, now this is more like the end of The Last Jedi, where everybody's dead. Luke Skywalker's dead. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? But careful observers will remember that the next chapter of that story was a giant anarcho-communist uprising against a gross old man. So, let's make that happen. All right. Again, this has been the Hoodrat Strategist radio program. You can find our episodes on Facebook and YouTube. Until next time, keep on fighting for that revolution solution.